How did the 2026 U.S.-Israel war with Iran spiral from a targeted military campaign into a crisis that threatened the world's energy supply and redrew the map of Middle East power? To understand the stakes, look no further than the narrow waters of the Strait of Hormuz, a choke point where ambition, security, and global interests collided. When the United States and Israel launched their preemptive war against Iran's nuclear program in February 2026, the intention was clear: to halt what Washington and Jerusalem saw as an imminent threat. Iran's nuclear ambitions had long been a source of deep concern, with Israel citing both existential risk and the specter of regional proliferation. For the U.S., upholding global non-proliferation norms and protecting allies were paramount. Tehran, however, insisted its program was peaceful and bristled at what it viewed as repeated violations of its sovereignty. As missiles fell, Iran retaliated not just on the battlefield, but in the global economy. In a matter of hours, the Strait of Hormuz, through which about 20% of all oil and gas trade passes, was closed. Tankers idled, prices soared, the world's energy arteries constricted, sending shockwaves from Asian stock markets to Western gas stations. The U.S. responded with a blockade of Iranian ports in mid-April 2026, escalating the standoff and deepening the economic fallout. By late May, the European Commission revised its 2026 economic growth forecast for the EU down to 1.1%, warning of further risk if the crisis dragged on. The strait became more than a military target. It became the fulcrum of international diplomacy. Regional states, acutely aware that any disruption threatened their own economies, stepped in. Pakistani and Qatari officials traveled to Iran in late May, seeking to broker a deal. 8 Muslim-majority nations pressed the U.S. to agree to a ceasefire. President Trump stated on May 25th that a negotiated settlement was largely negotiated, but Iran insisted that no agreement was imminent and emphasized its demands: joint management of the strait with Oman, recognition of its right to collect fees for navigational services, and the release of billions in frozen assets. Yet, the complexity only deepened. Iran's assertion of regulatory control extended into Omani and Emirati waters, drawing sharp warnings from Gulf neighbors. The United States, for its part, maintained that the blockade would remain until a deal addressed both the nuclear file and regional security threats. Israel, led by Prime Minister Netanyahu, expressed strong opposition to any agreement lacking firm constraints on Iran's missile arsenal and proxy networks. As talks stalled, Hezbollah, backed by Iran, launched attacks on Israeli positions in northern Israel, compounding fears of a broader conflict. The crisis exposed not just the vulnerability of energy markets, but the intricate web of alliances and rivalries shaping the Middle East. Iran's refusal to transfer highly enriched uranium abroad, offering only to downblend stocks domestically, left the nuclear issue unresolved. The U.S. insisted on verifiable steps, wary of any loophole. Tehran countered by demanding a ceasefire in Lebanon be part of any memorandum. Each side saw the strait as both a bargaining chip and a symbol of sovereignty. Every concession risked fracturing old alliances or emboldening rivals. By late May, the U.S. continued self-defense strikes against Iranian positions threatening the strait. Iran signaled it would only reopen the waterway if American forces withdrew. The proposed peace framework included a 30-day period after a ceasefire for Iran to clear mines from the Strait of Hormuz, but trust remained scarce. Regional states, watching the standoff, began quietly exploring new security partnerships, sensing that the old order was shifting. The struggle for the Strait of Hormuz in 2026 did more than disrupt oil markets. It revealed how quickly regional rivalries and power calculations can cascade into global crises. Even as diplomatic efforts edged forward, the underlying disputes over nuclear capability, sovereignty, and influence proved stubbornly resistant to resolution. The world was reminded that energy security and peace in the Middle East remain precariously balanced on the narrowest of straits. The stories that define tomorrow are already unfolding today. Subscribe to Today in Context for clear, grounded analysis of the events shaping our world, one story at a time.